You wake up with the same quiet promise. Today will be different. Today you fix your routine. Sleep earlier, wake up on time. Focus, take control. You've repeated this so many times it almost sounds real, and yet a few days later you're back in the same pattern. Late scrolling, delayed tasks, low energy, and something inside feels unstable. Like it doesn't hold. So ask yourself honestly. What if the problem is not your discipline? What if the way you build your routine is exactly what makes it collapse? Here's the truth. Most routines don't fail because people are lazy. They fail because the structure itself is unstable. And this is where it gets uncomfortable, because it shifts the focus away from effort and onto design. Think about how it usually starts. A moment of pressure, frustration, fatigue, that sense of losing control. And in that state, you decide to reset everything. You build a clean system, structured mornings, productive days, controlled evenings. It feels precise, almost convincing. But that system was built in an emotional spike, not in stable clarity. And that matters, because a structure created under pressure cannot survive neutral conditions. Real life is not intense. It's inconsistent, messy, low energy, unpredictable, and this is exactly where rigid routines break. Not in extreme situations, but in ordinary ones. And here's the mistake. You design your routine for your best version, not your real one. You expect consistency from a version of yourself that doesn't exist every day. And when reality doesn't match that model, the system collapses immediately. Then comes the conclusion: lack of discipline, lack of consistency. But the problem is not you. The problem is a system with no tolerance for real conditions. Most people miss this. They think the issue is difficulty, but it's not about difficulty. It's about rigidity. A rigid system has no adaptation, no margin for fatigue, distraction, or unexpected shifts. And discipline without adaptability always breaks. Another failure point is scale. Too many changes at once. Instead of adjusting one behavior, you rebuild everything: sleep, food, focus, structure. And for a short time, it works, because novelty compensates for effort. But once novelty fades, the load becomes unsustainable, and the system collapses under its own weight. This is not weakness. It's a predictable response. Your brain optimizes for efficiency. It resists sudden complexity, not to stop you, but to conserve energy. When you ignore this, you misread resistance as failure. But it's feedback about overload. The shift is structural, not motivational. It's not about building a perfect routine. It's about building a system that holds under normal conditions. The difference is critical. A routine is a plan. A system is a support structure. One depends on effort, the other reduces the need for it. So the question changes, not how to do everything right, but what is the minimum version of this action that can be repeated even in low energy? This is where stability begins, because consistency is built in ordinary states, not in peak moments. And this is where most people get stuck. They optimize for intensity, not for repeatability. But a system that only works when you feel good is not a system. It's a temporary state. The next shift is friction. Lower the entry point. Simplify the start. Remove unnecessary steps, not to reduce standards, but to increase stability. Because control comes from continuity, not from occasional intensity. And if you want systems that actually work in normal life, not ideal scenarios, this is the direction. Small, repeatable, low-resistance actions that hold even when your energy drops. Another overlooked failure point is how you treat disruption. One missed action becomes a full stop. One break is interpreted as collapse, and the system resets entirely. This creates a cycle. Start, break, reset, start again. But the real issue is not the break. It's the absence of recovery. A stable system includes return, not perfection. The key variable is not how consistently you execute, but how quickly you resume, and this determines whether the system survives over time. So the interpretation shifts. A mistake is not a failure signal. It's part of the process, expected, integrated, accounted for. Once this is built into the structure, the system stops being fragile. It becomes sustainable. And this leads to a different goal. Not an ideal version of yourself, but a stable one. Someone who can maintain simple actions across imperfect days. Low energy, distractions, real conditions. This is where control becomes real, and where pressure decreases. If your routine keeps breaking, the question is not what's wrong with you. It's what's wrong with the structure. Because once the structure changes, the experience changes. Less resistance, less reset, more continuity. And the core insight is simple. Systems don't fail in extreme moments. They fail in quiet ones, small delays, small distractions, small decisions, repeated daily. That's where the breakdown happens. And that's where correction must start. So don't rebuild everything. Don't wait for the perfect reset. Start with one controlled action. Small, deliberate, finished, in real conditions. Not ideal ones. Because control is not built in theory. It's built in completed actions. And now the only useful question is this. What is the one habit that keeps resetting for you? And is it really a discipline issue or a structural one? Answer that honestly. And build from there, slowly, consistently, in a way that can actually hold, in real life, not in a perfect version of it.